My wife declared, "I want a separation. My mind is made up." I replied with one text. That text contained proof of her lover's multiple other flings, and she frantically changed her mind about leaving me, but I am done. You'd think a man would notice his own marriage unraveling, that there'd be signs, slammed doors, long silences, cold shoulders. But not this time. My name's Mark Delaney. I'm 45 years old and live in Seattle. I'm an urban architect, one of the top names in city design, or so they tell me. I've spent my life thinking in blueprints and balance, flow and function, control, precision. So maybe that's why this hits so hard. It came with none of those things. I was sitting in my office, flipping through zoning revisions for the Capitol Hill redevelopment proposal, red pencil in hand, smoothing out inconsistencies. The city council was breathing down my neck for a final draft, the kind of pressure I thrived under. And then my phone buzzed. Not a call, a text. "This isn't working. I want a separation. My decision is final. Don't try to talk me out of it. My representative will be in touch." I reread it 3 times. Just a string of sentences. No greeting, no name, not even a mark. Selena, my wife. 12 years of marriage boiled down to a message that felt like it had been vetted by a paralegal. It wasn't even the words that did it. It was the tone. No emotion, just a decree. I stared at the screen for a full minute. I expected a rush of something. Confusion, anger, panic, but it was quiet in my head, not peaceful, hollow. We had just been talking days ago about renovating the old lodge up by Sally Yellum. New kitchen, maybe replace the deck. She wanted to host a New Year's retreat there. I'd already emailed our contractor. I typed out a reply. Understood. One word. Not because I didn't have more to say. I just didn't see the point. I set the phone down. Not a slam. Just placed it there, screen down, like it was a paperweight. I picked up my pencil, turned back to the elevation plans, and got back to work. My hand didn't shake. My chest didn't hurt. I didn't even blink hard. But something inside me sealed up, quietly, like the sound of a door closing a few rooms away. Not slammed, just shut. I'd loved her once. Or maybe I just loved the version of her I thought I had. The kind who used to laugh at my sketches and fall asleep next to me on the sofa with her hair a mess and her feet cold against my leg. That person hadn't been around for a while. She'd started doing more of those weekend inspections at the gallery. Always a last-minute thing. Clients flying in, she'd say. "Laurent needs me on site." I stopped asking questions around month 8 of that routine. Still, seeing the word representative in a text from your wife does something to a man. It draws a line you can't walk back over. I pressed my pencil to the page. The lines came smoother now, cleaner. My work always sharpened when I was under pressure. I didn't check my phone again that night. Didn't reply to the follow-up buzz I heard hours later. Probably some clarification about assets or furniture. Didn't care. If Selena wanted to end our marriage like a business contract, I could meet her at that level. No screaming, no pleading, no theatrics. Just the clean cut of a blade. People like to say they never saw it coming, that the betrayal blindsided them. But the truth is, I saw it from a mile away. I wasn't stupid, just patient. It started over a year ago. Selena had changed, subtly at first. Longer hours at the gallery, her phone always face down. Those hushed little chuckles over texts she never shared. She told me she was expanding into private collections, big spenders, international clients, all conveniently requiring her presence at odd hours. And then came Laurent. I met him once, maybe twice, flamboyant as hell, with a voice like a champagne cork popping every time he laughed, wore linen blazers year-round, called everyone darling, and kissed my cheek like I was some museum donor. I didn't like him. Too slick, too curated. The kind of man who built his charm on other people's money. But Selena adored him, talked about his vision and his aesthetic instincts, like he was the second coming of Picasso. I knew better. I've worked in design long enough to spot a salesman in an artist's coat. Still, I didn't confront her. I observed. Then one day, I made a call. His name was Mr. Quaid. Older man, very soft-spoken, used to work for a private risk firm, now freelanced for high-profile clients who wanted discretion more than drama. He didn't ask for much. Just a check and a name. Make it quiet, I told him. No tailing her in sunglasses. No reports delivered in manila folders. I want everything digital and untraceable. He nodded once and disappeared into the kind of silence only men like him know how to maintain. Weeks passed, then a month. I started to wonder if maybe I had overreacted. Maybe this was just a phase, or some rich boy flirtation that didn't go anywhere. And then the file came in. Password protected. Clean. Titled simply, Selena. Confidential. I opened it in my home office, late one night after she'd left for another weekend inspection. The screen lit up with timestamps, GPS coordinates, audio recordings, and then the photos. Lauren's hands on her waist, her neck. A kiss. Blurry but unmistakable. Another image, him walking into a hotel suite with her, smiling at the camera like he knew it was there. The texts were worse. Sweet nothings, sure, but also plans. Lies. Multiple women. One named Jade, clearly younger, clearly naive. Another, some socialite from Queen, and sending selfies in a bathroom that looked suspiciously like Lauren's condo. And then there was the audio clip. I played it once. That was enough. Laurent, laughing to someone off-screen, saying, Selena? Oh, she's useful. Gets me into all the right places. And that card of hers, unlimited, darling. I could propose and she wouldn't notice the prenup. He laughed for a full 10 seconds after that. I didn't react, just hit pause. Saved the file under a different name. Buried it in a private archive on an external drive. Didn't say a word, because I wasn't ready yet. Not to confront her. Not to destroy what we had. Maybe some part of me thought she'd come clean. That she'd look at me one night over dinner and tell the truth. But she didn't. So the file sat for a full year. And now, here I was, sitting in my new studio apartment, the ink on her text still drying in my mind. Her representative on the way. Her freedom declared. And that file? It was time. I pulled the drive from my desk drawer, plugged it in. The folder opened instantly, like it had been waiting for this moment. I didn't even need to review it. I remembered every image, every word. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't even justice. It was precision. The same way I approach every design. She made her move. Now it was my turn. I selected 3 items from the archive. A high-res photo of Laurent kissing the gallery in turn, a screenshot of the text where he called Selena clueless but well-dressed, and the audio file where he boasted about manipulating her. I compressed the files into a neat little bundle, labeled it something simple, truth.zip. Then I reached for my phone. Time for the next step. I didn't rush it. I sat there for a while, just staring at the folder. Truth.zip. Clean. Final. There was no need for embellishment. No message. No subject line. No warning. Selena didn't deserve a dramatic speech. She wanted to treat our marriage like a contract, so I do the same. Emotionless. Professional. I dragged the file into a new message window, attached it, and typed in her number. The cursor blinked at me like it was asking if I was sure. I was. My thumb hovered over the send button for exactly 1 breath. Then I tapped it. Delivered. That was it. No read receipt. No typing bubble. Just the quiet whoosh of finality. I placed the phone face down on the table and powered it off completely. Not silent mode. Not airplane mode. Off. Cold and dark. No calls. No explanations. No arguments. Let her sit with it. I turned back to the drawing board. The drafting pencil still rested in the groove like it hadn't missed a beat. The clean white blueprint waited for its next layer. Funny thing, my lines were straighter now. Surer. My hand moved with a kind of calm I hadn't felt in months. Maybe longer. There was something sacred about getting back to work when everything else is burning. Like standing in the eye of your own storm, sketching plans for the rebuild before the debris has even settled. I adjusted the scale ruler, shaded a window line, and made a small note in the margin. Maximize natural light from the eastern exposure. That felt good. Like control again. I didn't think about what Selena was doing, whether she was alone, or with Laurent, or already scrambling to find her representative. I didn't picture her face when she saw those images, or heard his voice calling her a stepping stone, because none of that mattered anymore. The only thing that mattered was this. I knew who she was now, and she knew that I knew. No screaming, no tears, no slammed doors. Just the quiet, surgical precision of the truth landing in her lap. And me? I had work to do. By the time the sun set, the floor plan was nearly complete. I rolled it up carefully, rubber banded it, and placed it in the project tube by the door. Tomorrow, I'd submit it to the council. Might even grab coffee from the place on Madison she always said was too bitter. She wouldn't be there to taste it now. And for the first time in years, that didn't bother me, not one bit. I waited 6 hours before turning my phone back on. It was late, past midnight. The studio was quiet except for the low hum of the mini fridge and the scratching sound of my pencil against a sketch pad. I hadn't looked at the time in hours. I didn't need to. When the screen lit up, it was chaos. 17 missed calls, 9 voicemails, dozens of texts, all from the same name, Selena. The first message came just 38 minutes after I sent the file. Mark, what is this? Then 10 minutes later, where did you get this? This isn't fair. You don't understand it. And then the tone shifted. Please call me. We need to talk. I didn't know about the other women. I swear. Laurent lied to me. Mark, this isn't who I am. You know that. Then, the voice messages. I didn't listen to them at first. Just watched the little play button icons stack up one after another. But curiosity got the better of me. The first was calm. A little too calm. Mark, I think we got off track. I meant what I said earlier. But this changes things. Let's talk, please. The second cracked. I didn't know. Okay. I didn't know he was using me. He told me things, and I believed him. I was stupid. By the third, she was crying. Mark, please. Don't do this. Don't turn your back on us. I sat there on the edge of the bed, listening to the woman who'd once kissed me with the same mouth that now begged me to forget everything. I didn't feel satisfaction, just stillness. Then came the pounding on the studio door. It was nearly 2 in the morning. I knew before I looked. I didn't answer. Mark, open the door. Her voice cracked through the intercom, shrill and desperate. Please, just talk to me. I didn't know he was seeing those other women. I pressed the speaker button, keeping my tone measured. You asked for a representative. My legal team will be in touch. Do not come here again. Silence on the other end. Then, Mark, come on. Don't do this. Please. We can fix this. I made a mistake, but I still love you. I didn't reply. Just let the silence hang in the air. The sensor light outside flicked off after a few minutes. I watched through the peephole as she stood there, mascara streaked across her face, heels in hand, pacing in circles like she was rehearsing a speech. Then she stopped, eyes locked on the door. You don't get to be cold about this, she snapped suddenly. You're not perfect either. You shut down a long time ago. You stopped trying. Lauren made me feel seen. I pressed the intercom again. You're embarrassing yourself. Go home. Another long pause. Her voice broke this time. I can't believe you're doing this. And just like that, she turned and left. The echo of her footsteps on the stairwell was the only sound for a long while. I turned off the intercom, locked the deadbolt again, and went back to my desk. The model I was building, a new civic square for Pioneer Park, was nearly complete. I adjusted one of the balsa wood benches, took a step back, and studied the layout. It was balanced, elegant, everything in its place. Unlike my marriage, it had structure, purpose. I exhaled slowly, not out of relief, but clarity. Selena had made her choice. Now she was learning to live with it. And me? I was already starting over. It started the next morning. A ding from my phone while I stirred espresso grounds into the French press. One new mention. At Bianca Strongbody, some men punish women for leaving them by rewriting the narrative. I won't stay silent. The truth needs to come out. Bianca, Selena's sister. I hadn't spoken to her in nearly 6 months, not since a family brunch where she lectured me about the benefits of intermittent fasting while critiquing the posture of a 5-year-old sitting next to us. Bianca was a full-time fitness influencer, part-time self-help guru, and lifetime attention vacuum. Apparently now, she was also Selena's war general. I scrolled through her latest posts. Videos of her lifting kettlebells, cut with moody black and white clips of her standing by windows, arms crossed, looking thoughtful. The captions told a different story. It's wild how quickly the abuser plays victim when the narrative doesn't suit him anymore. I will always protect my sister from psychological warfare. Always. Just because someone wears suits and speaks softly doesn't mean they're not manipulative. The comments were already filling up with blue hearts and fire emojis from her followers. People who didn't know me, didn't know Selena, and had certainly never seen a city master plan. Bianca didn't tag me directly. Of course not. That would be actionable. But she didn't need to. Her followers knew exactly who she meant. And Selena? Not a peep. She let her sister stir the pot while she stayed silent, probably hoping this would pressure me into a conversation, or at least shame me into backing off. I didn't respond. Not online. Not in texts. I simply forwarded the screenshots to Ms. Richter. She called within the hour. Her tone was almost delighted. She's posting publicly? Excellent, she said, fingers clicking on a keyboard. We'll include this in the cease and desist. Defamation isn't just actionable, it's expensive. That afternoon, Ms. Richter sent Bianca a formal notice. One paragraph stood out. Any further public commentary implying abuse, misconduct, or fabrication will result in a defamation suit. All further communications must go through legal counsel. Bianca didn't respond. Not directly, but the next day, her tone changed. It's always the quiet ones who lash out with lawyers. Doesn't scare me. Some people are cowards with big checkbooks. I blocked her on every platform. Set up filters so her name wouldn't even appear in my notifications. And just like that, her voice disappeared into the digital ether. That night, I sat by my drafting table, reviewing lighting plans for a waterfront project. I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel tense. Bianca could scream into the void all she wanted. The internet always moved on, and the more she ranted, the more unhinged she looked to everyone outside her bubble of bootcamp disciples and turmeric tea sales. But the best part? People were starting to question her. One comment under her latest video stuck out. Didn't your sister cheat on her husband and get caught? Shouldn't y'all sit this one out? By the weekend, Bianca's crusade was starting to unravel. One by one, her cryptic posts turned from righteous fury to vague affirmations. Sometimes protecting peace means going quiet. I didn't reply, didn't gloat. I just called Ms. Richter and said, good work. Then I poured myself a scotch, pulled up the latest zoning report, and got back to something that actually mattered. Let them scream into their own echo chamber. I had buildings to design, and better things to build than broken people. It was a Tuesday when the alert came through. Just a simple notification from my bank. Unusual activity detected on your personal checking account. Transaction declined. At first, I assumed it was fraud, some external scammer. My card had been skimmed once in DC. These things happened. I opened the banking app out of habit. There it was. A flag transfer attempt for $8,400, routed to an unfamiliar account under a feminine-sounding name. The note in the transaction field simply said, miscellaneous reimbursement. My eyes narrowed. I tapped through the security report, reading slowly. Attempted login location, Seattle. Device used, iPad. Registered under an old joint household ID, Delaney Home. IP address, matched my old residential network. It didn't take a detective to figure it out. Selena, she hadn't just wanted a clean break. She wanted one with perks, access to accounts she no longer had a legal right to, justified in her mind by whatever twisted rationale she was clinging to. She must have remembered one of the older passwords. I hadn't used it in years, but clearly, one of our shared devices hadn't been wiped. Rookie mistake on my part, one I wouldn't repeat. I forwarded everything to Ms. Richter within 10 minutes. Her reply came in just 5. Fantastic. This qualifies as unauthorized access and attempted fraud. It gives us major leverage. I'll draft an addendum to our pre-litigation letter. Her excitement was clinical. I could hear the gears turning, the strategy forming behind her voice. She handed us the hammer, she said, chuckling softly. This changes the tone of the negotiations. That afternoon, I visited the bank in person, sat down with the branch manager, reviewed the access logs, printed out a hard copy of the security report, and signed the affidavit to confirm I hadn't authorized anything. Case file opened. Timeline started. No drama, no yelling, just paper. The next morning, I received a flurry of messages from Selena. Mark, I think there's been some misunderstanding with the account access. I was just checking something. I didn't transfer anything. It didn't even go through. Can we talk before your lawyer gets carried away? This doesn't have to be ugly. No apology. Just panic wrapped in civility. Like she was negotiating a parking ticket. I didn't reply. Forwarded everything to Ms. Richter. She added it to the file. By that evening, she drafted the update. Attempted unauthorized financial access is not just unethical. It's criminal. If her attorney has a brain, they'll advise her to settle immediately. I didn't feel triumphant. Not really. What I felt was confirmation that her text about final decisions and representatives was never about respect or independence. It was a script she expected me to follow, but I had rewritten it. She thought she could leave with dignity, then reach back for whatever pieces still felt convenient. Not anymore. That door? Slammed, locked, walled over. And on my end? I slept fine. Better, actually. Because every time she tried to pull something, she handed me another brick for the wall I was building between us. Brick by brick. Clean. Precise. Just like any good design. The knock on the studio door came early Saturday morning, too early for a weekend, too polite to be Selena. When I checked the peephole, it all made sense. Theodore and Lucille, her parents. They looked exactly as I remembered from every holiday, every stiff dinner conversation. Lucille in a pressed blouse like she was going to a country club brunch. Theodore with his thinning silver hair slicked back, holding a hat he never wore. Together, they looked like a Norman Rockwell painting slightly faded by discomfort. I opened the door halfway. Mark, Lucille said, her voice already trembling like she was starting from the middle of a monologue. We're so sorry to just show up like this. But I know why you're here, I said, my hand still on the doorframe. They exchanged a glance. Nervous, rehearsed. We heard about the situation, Theodore said quietly, like it was a diagnosis. About the misunderstanding between you and Selena. Lucille stepped in, taking over. She made a mistake, Mark. But haven't we all? We're not here to excuse it, just to ask if you'll consider forgiving her. I didn't answer. Just let the silence sit. Lucille pressed on, voice soft, rehearsed. She's been so upset, so lost. She thought Laurent was someone he wasn't. Laurent was seeing two other women, I said calmly. One of them an intern at her own gallery. She paused mid-breath, clearly unsure if she was supposed to know that. She didn't know that. He deceived her. She also tried to move money out of my personal account last week, I added, from an old shared device. My lawyer has the report. That shut them both up. Theodore's eyebrows lifted. Lucille took a full step back. I didn't raise my voice, didn't change my tone. I just stood there, looking them both in the eye. She said our marriage was over. I continued. In a text, no conversation, just instructions. She used the word representative. Lucille opened her mouth, closed it again. I honored her decision, I said simply. Everything since then has been her scrambling to walk it back. She's scared, Theodore finally said. And ashamed. She should be, I replied. Another silence. Heavier this time. Lucille reached into her purse, pulled out a tissue. Mark, you were always so good to her. To us. We just want to see this family stay intact. There is no family, I said, stepping slightly forward. There was a marriage. She ended it. But, Lucille tried again. I'm not angry, I said, but I am done. They looked at me like I'd just closed a casket. I appreciate you coming, I said, starting to close the door. But there's nothing left to discuss. Lucille's lip quivered. Theodore nodded stiffly. As the door clicked shut, I heard Lucille whisper, God help her. Maybe he would. That wasn't my concern anymore. I stood there for a moment, hands still on the knob, breathing evenly. Then I went back to my drafting table, rolled out a fresh sheet of vellum, and traced a line, steady and straight. Some things, once broken, stay broken. And some lines, once drawn, never get erased. By the time Ms. Richter delivered the formal settlement offer, we already knew how this would go. It was methodical, composed, just like everything else she did. She slid the folder across her sleek walnut desk towards Selena's attorney, a jittery younger man who looked like he'd rather be back in a classroom than sitting across from someone like her. Here's our proposal, Ms. Richter said evenly. Mark agrees to a modest lump sum payout to Ms. Delaney. She may retrieve her personal belongings under supervision. In return, she signs a non-disclosure agreement, waives all future claims, and walks away clean. The lawyer hesitated, flipping through the pages. You could see him calculating whether it was generous, insulting, or dangerous. He looked at Selena, who was seated beside him, arms folded, expression defiant but cracking around the edges. This is absurd, Selena said sharply. I'm not walking away like I'm the one who failed here. Ms. Richter didn't even blink. Then by all means, we'll proceed to litigation. And everything Laurent said, wrote, and did will be entered into the court record. Selena flinched, just slightly. Her lawyer leaned forward, voice unsure. We may need to discuss some of these terms. Privately. Take all the time you need, Ms. Richter said, standing. We'll be across the hall. We stepped out into the corridor. I could hear murmurs through the glass. Her voice rising, his getting shakier. 10 minutes later, They called us back in. Selena's face had hardened. Her lawyer looked resigned. "We have counter-demands," she said coolly, sliding a fresh sheet of paper forward. "If you want this to stay out of court, here's what I want." Ms. Richter read silently. Then she looked up at me, almost amused. "She wants partial equity in your architectural firm," she said aloud. "A percentage of royalties for any design she deems inspired by their shared aesthetic, and the heirloom watch your grandfather left you." I turned to Selena. "You're not serious," I said. "I was with you for 12 years, Mark," she snapped. "Do you think your work just happened in a vacuum? Who supported you when you had nothing?" "You mean the woman who cheated on me for over a year and tried to drain my account last week?" I said calmly. "You mean that support?" Her lawyer started to speak, then stopped. "Smart move." Ms. Richter placed the original agreement back in front of them. "Final offer. The terms stand. Refuse, and we file for fraud, breach of marital contract, and pursue damages." Selena's mask cracked for just a second. Her eyes darted to the folder, then to her lawyer, who was now pale and blinking too fast. "You'll destroy me," she said quietly. "No," I said. "You did that to yourself. I just drew the floor plan." A long silence. Then, with a sharp inhale, Selena reached for the pen. I stood, straightened my jacket. "Send the signed documents to my office," Ms. Richter said. "Have a good day." As we walked out, I didn't look back. Because when someone tries to burn your life down, the last thing you owe them is your attention. The settlement was signed on a Thursday morning. No ceremony, no tears. Just a signature on a stack of papers and a quiet handshake between lawyers. That Saturday, Selena came to collect her things. She didn't come alone. 2 movers followed her around the old townhouse, boxing up her designer coats, framed prints from obscure artists, and a stack of unread architecture books she used to display but never touch. She wore sunglasses indoors. No eye contact, no small talk. I stayed near the entryway, arms crossed, watching as she moved through the place like a guest at an open house. She barely looked at me. Her lawyer was there too, clipboard in hand, double-checking the list of pre-approved belongings. At one point, she reached for an old watch, my grandfather's. I cleared my throat. "Not part of the agreement." She paused, hands still hovering over the box. Then she dropped her gaze, muttered something to the lawyer, and stepped back. The movers packed the last of it by noon. She stood at the door for a moment, clutching her purse. Still no sunglasses removed. Maybe she didn't want me to see her face. Or maybe she didn't want to see mine. "I hope you'll be okay," she said, voice tight. "I already am," I replied. She opened her mouth like she might say something else, then thought better of it. The door shut behind her with a soft click. And that was that. I didn't watch the truck pull away. Instead, I walked to the drafting table by the window. There was something waiting there, a design I'd been sketching late at night for weeks. Not a commission, not a government bid, just something for myself. It was a public pavilion concept, curved steel framing with an elevated green roof, open glass walls. Modern, clean, resilient. I called it the Shell. It was the first design I'd drawn in years that didn't have Selena's voice in my head. Too cold, too sterile. "Can you make it softer?" I didn't want it softer. I wanted it honest. In the weeks that followed, I submitted it to an international architecture expo in Denmark. I didn't expect anything, but it won. Best Conceptual Design. They sent a letter, then a plaque, then a formal invitation to present in Copenhagen next spring. I hung the plaque in my new office, a small converted space in Pioneer Square, just mine, with a concrete floor and wide-pane windows that let in all the gray Seattle light I'd once tried to filter out. In the evenings, when the city quieted, I worked on a side project, a novel, just an outline at first, then pages, then chapters. It was about an architect whose life implodes quietly, not with explosions or cheating scandals, but with small, silent betrayals. It wasn't autobiographical, not exactly, but the main character's name was Miles, and he understood blueprints better than people. Writing came easier than I thought. I didn't tell anyone. Selena, from what I gathered, had moved in with Bianca. Social media showed a lot of smoothies, staged photos, and healing journey captions. The same cycle, still spinning. Laurent had vanished. Word was, the gallery dropped him after the surveillance audio surfaced. Leaked. Maybe accidentally, maybe not. The intern had gone silent. The socialite deleted every photo of him from her feed. As for me, I was finally still. Not happy. Not yet. But calm, sharp, focused. The pain had turned into something useful. I poured it into plans and lines, outlines and words. I stopped waiting for apologies. Stopped waiting for people to see me. I saw myself just fine. The final check from the settlement cleared in late fall. Ms. Richter closed the file with a satisfied sigh. That, she said, was a textbook clean break. She was right. There was no celebration, just peace. And peace, I learned, is the most expensive thing you can buy after a storm, but worth every cent. I rolled out a fresh sheet of vellum, traced the first line of something new, and for the first time in years, I smiled. Not because I had finally won, but because I had finally walked away.